Recorded.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Carlo Bobilas, and I'll be your moderator. Today's session will be presented by Technical Marketing Engineer Robert Harris. But before I hand over the mic, I do have a few housekeeping items to cover about today's session. Today's session will be recorded and made available on demand. We'll make sure to provide those details at the end. Also, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. So if you are on WebEx and have a question for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the WebEx question and answer panel, where our wonderful panelists are ready to respond. For those tuning into our live stream, thank you very much for joining in as well. Q&A is limited to those via WebEx. However, we do have a post-event Q&A thread over on the Cisco Learning Network where you can post any follow-up questions you might have. So without any further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Robert. Robert, over to you.
Thank you so much, Carlo. I appreciate that. And welcome, everybody. Good day. And thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be looking at introducing network visibility module and Zeek detections into Cisco Secure Network Analytics. As Carlo said, my name is Robert Harris. I'm a technical marketing engineer specializing in detections for secure network analytics. So for our agenda today, we're going to dig in and do a quick overview, a quick intro into Secure Network Analytics if you're not familiar with the product. Then we're going to dig right into Network Visibility Module and Zeek detections. We're going to kind of talk about them real quick and also have some demos. I'm going to show you a few different parts for each of the Network Visibility Module and the Zeek detections. And then we're going to share some additional resources for you where you're able to learn more. And at the end of the session, we'll wrap it up with questions and answers. So just real quick today about me, I've spent about 6 years at Cisco. My focus here is on looking at threat research and detection engineering, again, inside of Secure Network Analytics. Prior to coming to Cisco, I was a security researcher specializing in vulnerability threat intelligence. Outside of work, I help run a big pet rescue, do a lot of traveling, photography, into a lot of different hobbies, high power rocketry, and just kind of generally enjoy being outdoors. So let's start off here by just doing a quick intro to Secure Network Analytics. You probably may have heard of it referred to as SNA. If you've ever heard of StealthWatch or StealthWatch Enterprise, we're all talking about the same thing here with Secure Network Analytics. And Secure Network Analytics is Cisco's offering into the network detection and response, or NDR space. And the three major use cases that we have here are giving us that network-wide visibility. We're collecting telemetry from a variety of different sources across the network, showing you everything that's actually happening on the wire in those conversations. And in some cases, like we're going to look at today with Network Visibility Module, even some things that are happening on the endpoint tied into those network conversations. We're going to give you predictive threat analytics here. So we're combining between behavioral modeling, building baselines, some machine learning, and tying all that together with global threat intelligence to go through and help find threats on your network. And we're doing that also with automated detection and response. So that being the R portion in NDR. So being able to do things like quarantine a host using an ANC policy in ICE, or sending a syslog message or a webhook up to a SIM, such as Splunk, to be able to conduct an incident response investigation, forensics, or take additional automated actions, especially when used in conjunction with other products such as Cisco XDR and all the response actions that are available there. So how do we do this? How do we provide you those major use cases we just looked at? Well, the main way we do this is using the network as a sensor to help kind of detect threats in your environment. And there's a few different ways we do that. We mentioned the behavioral modeling earlier, where we're kind of building baselines off of the hosts that we see. There's the multi-layered machine learning, where we're going through and able to kind of figure out what is considered to be normal and what is considered to be anomalous for a particular host. We're bringing in endpoint telemetry, which we're going to talk about here with network visibility module in just a second. And what most people are probably familiar with is bringing in network telemetry. So things like net flow data, IP fixed data, maybe even some proxy logs into the product. But there's a lot more that we can do that you're going to see here with such as network visibility module and Zeek. We can also bring in firewall logs into the product. We can retain those for like compliance use cases and also run our detections against those as well. And second, if I mentioned also our integration with Cisco XDR. So we're able to take all of the on-prem detections that we're doing inside of Secure Network Analytics. We're able to send those up to Cisco XDR. We're able to go through and help enrich those events and correlate those with other security controls, especially EDR products, so endpoint detection and response products. So what are we doing here lately inside of Secure Network Analytics? Well, we just had our release version 7.5.2, and the core story behind that release here with respect to detections is that we're doing more. And we're doing more with those detections with both existing telemetry, NVM, we've ingested that for a while, and new telemetry, which is Zeek, right? So NVM, that's been around for as long as we've had our data store architecture. We've been ingesting that. We've been able to query that. We've kind of been able to, we've been treating it kind of like NetFlow prior to version 7.5.2. But now in version 7.5.2, we're able to do detections on specific fields inside of that NVM or network visibility module telemetry. That does require the data store to be running, so make sure you're on the data store architecture to get these particular detections. And with Zeek, so we got two new things with Zeek. Both the ingest for Zeek is new, and so are the detections. So it's a new telemetry source for us, and it's also a new detection source as well. In version 7.5.2, we are ingesting and running detections against the Zeek telemetry, but we do not currently store the Zeek telemetry. But good news is, in about 1 month's time, we've got version 7.5.3 coming out, and that release does include Zeek telemetry storage here. So very shortly, we're going to have those logs from Zeek stored and running the detections on them. But as of today, we're going to be just doing the detections. So let's dig into what we're doing with Network Visibility Module, or NVM, and those detections. Let's do just kind of a quick intro for those who've never heard of Network Visibility Module. Network Visibility Module, it's a component of Cisco Secure Client. So if you've ever used the old AnyConnect, that's the Cisco Secure Client is the new name for AnyConnect, and NVM module is part of both of those products there. And what we're doing with Network Visibility Module is we are tying in the activity that we would normally see from, say, a NetFlow record, right? So looking at source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, byte counts, packet counts, protocols, things like that. And we're tying it together with endpoint style details. And what we've got is, you can see here in black, is we've got the records, the fields that we have available that we'd normally see off of the network. So that IPs and ports and byte counts and things like that. And then in the light blue, you can see we're bringing in some endpoint style information, usernames, the user account types, operating system information, actually system information as well. And then in the dark blue, we're looking at what's actually happening kind of within the operating system. So looking at process names, process hashes, parent process names, parent process hashes, looking at arguments that are being passed over to those particular processes there. So we're able to tie in those endpoint style details with what is actually happening on the wire there. It's going to save you a lot of time when you're doing things like an incident response investigation, not to have to go and pivot over and start trying to grab information off of an endpoint about what it was doing at the time that a conversation took place on the network, because you've already got everything all tied together in with NVM. And one of the major use cases with NVM there is remote worker visibility, right? So you can run NVM both with, say, maybe a desktop or a laptop or someone who is in the office, but it also works with a user who is outside of the office, even if they're not connected over to the VPN. So we've got kind of different ways that we can get that data up to Secure Network Analytics, both on and off network collection methods there, where you're able to gain visibility into those endpoints where you would have normally not seen those through traditional telemetry sources, like capturing net flow from, say, an access layer switch in, say, a campus office or a branch office, for example. All right, let's take a look at the actual detections that we're bringing about here in version 7.5.2 with these new detections. So for network visibility module, there are 4 new detections. We show you those through the web UI in our manager and through central analytics, and I'll show you that here in a demo in just a second. But we've got 4 new detections in here. If you've ever used central analytics, you should kind of recognize the screen. If you've ever used Cisco XDR, you'll also recognize this screen here where we've got our individual detections called out. And here's a closer kind of look at those. So there are 4 new alerts here that are based off of the network visibility module telemetry. And I'll show you what those look like here in a second. We can go through, we can enable those individually. We can change our priority on them to match our particular network. And one thing that's real popular is we've got all of these mapped out to the MITRE attack framework. So you see those last 2 columns in red. We have the tactic category there. So for example, for this first one, potential gamma red and C2 callout, we've got that mapped to the command and control tactic category and the command and scripting individual technique under the MITRE attack framework. So let's move into a demo here. I'm going to show you a few different things inside of the network visibility module detections here. So I have logged into my manager here in Secure Network Analytics. And the first thing I want to show you is how to get to that screenshot that I just showed you there, where I showed you those 4 NVM new alerts. If we go to Configure on the side menu and then come up and select Alerts, this is going to show us all of the alerts here in Central Analytics. Now you do need to have this function turned on, and in order to use Central Analytics, you do need to be on the data store architecture. So this is something that's fairly new in the product that does require the data store in order to function. So we can see all of our individual alerts, and now I just want to show you the network visibility module alerts. So I'm going to come down here to telemetry, and I'm going to come down here and filter by Cisco NVM, network visibility module. And now that will show us those 4 alerts here for NVM. And you can see in here how you can kind of interact with it. If you expand this out, we'll usually give you some remediation next steps down here as well. Then from here, I want to show you just an example of something that might trigger one of these alerts. We're going to look at this alert down here called suspicious process path. And effectively what we're looking for here is for a user to be kicking off a process that generates a network connection from an unusual location in the system. So let me go over to a demo box here, and you can see I'm at the command prompt, and I am at the Windows Fonts folder. So normally just used for storing font files that are going to be used in a Windows system. And what I have done here, if I do dir curl.exe, you can see I have taken the very popular operating system binary curl.exe and I've copied it to the Windows fonts folder. Now, I'm just doing something fairly benign here just to kind of use as a demonstration purpose, but really anybody could copy anything that they wanted to from here. So just to show you this actually doing something, I am going to call curl to download the Cisco Umbrella top 1 million domains. And we've got that hosted up on an AWS box here. So we're going to run that command. And in about 15 seconds, it's going to go through and download that file. And in fact, here you can see it has just appeared on the desktop as it is downloading here. So again, fairly benign here, what I'm showing you right here, but this might be an insider threat's attempt at trying to hide their activities, them putting tools in odd locations, somewhere other than maybe their My Documents or the downloads folder or on the desktop where people will commonly download things and run them from that location. If someone is trying to kind of be slightly sneaky and hide what they're doing, they might copy an executable to an unusual path here. So once someone's gone and done something, this particular system that I'm on is running Network Visibility Module. So it is reporting into Secure Network Analytics all the network connections that are being made, and where applicable, all of the processes and process hashes, arguments that are passed, and things like that over into Secure Network Analytics. So once we have gone through and actually had something occur that would trigger a detection, we can get to it by coming up here to monitor and then go to alerts. And this takes us to our central analytics. And here you can actually see, here's the one we just did for suspicious process path. That's the IP address of that particular box. So I'm going to click on that alert name for suspicious process path. And you can see we've got kind of the description of the alert here. We've got kind of an outline about the host and all the information we know about it. We've got our mappings to the MITRE ATT&CK framework in here. We've got all the rule details here from the alert when it's fired. And the main one that you're interested in is when you come down here are the supporting observations. So this is kind of going to be the meat and potatoes of the alert down here. And you can see here's the process name, curl.exe. You can see I've run it a couple of times as I was doing some testing here. And if you click on the plus sign to the left of that, you get the full details down in here. So you can see all of these fields that are available here. You can see we talked about how it was hosted on AWS earlier. There's the arguments that got passed that we saw from the command prompt here. Here we are in Windows fonts, and then there's curl.exe here. So you don't have to go and dig into endpoint details just based off of something happening in the network here, and we've married everything together here for you. There's also some reports you can take a look at to dig into the network visibility module. I'll show you those right now. I'm going to go to report here on the left-hand menu and then come up and select report builder. And the first one I want to look at is this NVM collection trend. So I'm going to open this particular report, and here you can see the flows that have been coming in from Network Visibility Module hosts over time. This is defaulted to the last 8 hours, but we could do it for, say maybe even the last hour or whatever time frame we wanted to, and really be able to kind of drill into spikes and things like that. The other report that I want to take a look at here is called Endpoint Traffic NVM. And this is really where you're going to be able to get in and take a look at the individual records that we're seeing coming in here. It takes a second to populate, but it should bring us up about 300 results here. Yep. And so you can see we have our start time, end time, source IP, all those types of things, ports, byte counts, all those types of things we'd normally see from NetFlow. But then as I scroll over, we're going to see things like the process account, process names, process hashes, parent process details. And if you come over here and click on manage columns, you can see all of the different columns that are available, which match what I was showing you earlier during the NVM intro as to all of the different fields. that are available off of the network visibility module data. So let's go back to the slides here and let's get into Zeek detections. So this is, again, this part here, it's a new telemetry source for us, and it's new for detections for us. So we'll do a quick Zeek intro. If you've ever heard of Bro before, that was the old name for Zeek here. And Zeek, it can be used in a couple different ways. The classic way that it is used, it's an open source tool, and it's classically kind of used as a network security monitoring software. There are some modes you can use with it to kind of treat it as like an IDS, IPS system. But basically, what Zeek does at its core is it takes raw traffic. So typically fed with a tap or a span off of the network. We'd feed that into a promiscuous port on the Zeek server, and Zeek is going to be listening on that port, and it's going to be doing a lot of parsing, right? It's built up of a number of different parsers, and it's going to be parsing those network protocols at a very deep level. It gives you a lot of details, and anything that it sees, it logs that activity. Now, it's not necessarily just, oh, hey, I saw this and I thought that this was malicious. This is something your SOC should look into. It's everything. You're making DNS requests, clear text over port 53 UDP. It parses all of those out. It shows you what the request was, what the request type. Was it for a host record? Was it for a text record? Was it for an MX record? And then you're also able to see the response that came back from that. So you'll know what that request actually resolved to, for example. There's over 40 different, Zeek logs that kind of come with it out of the box. There's additional modules that you can add on to it to kind of extend that. Very powerful tool to kind of give you a glimpse as to what's happening really down in the weeds on your network here. And as I mentioned a minute ago, that is a new source of ingest for us. So typically the way that it's going to work is in the bottom left-hand corner here. We're going to have a Zeek server typically run on some Linux box. In our lab, we're using Ubuntu, for example. And we're going to be feeding that with a span or a tap, where we're going to be able to see conversations going in between a client and server, or just anything going on, any hosted applications, client to client, client to a printer, whatever the case may be in your on-prem network. We're going to feed that into that promiscuous interface. Zeek is going to go through and do the parsing on that. It's going to generate a log file, and then you can use our syslog to send those Zeek logs in a JSON format up to your Secure Network Analytics flow collector. The flow collector is going to go through, run the detections on those, and those individual detections, we'd see those stored in the data store. And again, this does require the data store architecture in order for this to work. And again, in version 7.5.3, that's going to be coming out here in about a month, we will start to store those Zeek logs as well. And then you would access any of those that have fired, of course, through your Secure Network Analytics Manager through the web UI there. So what are we bringing for Zeek detections? Well, in version 7.5.2, we've got 5 new detections coming into Zeek. And again, we kind of exposed these through Central Analytics, and we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. But you can see the 5 names that are down here, and here you can see a little bit closer look at them as to how this looks in the UI, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So let's move into a quick demo here, and we're going to go back over to our manager. And I want to show you those alerts again. So we're going to go to Configure on the left-hand menu. We're going to come up here and we're going to select Alerts. And again, now we're seeing all of the alerts in Central Analytics here. And I'm going to come over here to the telemetry column, and we're going to click on that, and we're going to filter by Zeek logs. So this is going to do like we just did with NVM a minute ago, and it's going to show us all of our individual Zeek detections that we have in here. One I want to take a look at here, just to give you an example. I described how Zeek works with DNS a moment ago, is this very first alert here, DNS traffic to Tor proxy. And so this one relies on the Zeek DNS log file. And what we're looking for is for individual clients that are being monitored by Zeek to be looking up, doing DNS lookups to well-known popular Tor proxies. So this would be indicative of somebody using a Tor client, such as the Tor browser bundle. And by looking those up, it's typically again going to be used with a a host that's running Tor, either a browser or a Tor proxy. So that would be something fairly suspicious we would see. So Zeek doesn't necessarily call that out by itself. It just says, hey, here was a DNS request for a host record for this particular host, and yet we saw the response come back, right? That's kind of what Zeek does. And what we've done in our detections engine inside of Secure Network Analytics is we are looking for those DNS requests, those host requests for those known Tor proxies. So we'll switch back over here to kind of my demo box we were using a second ago. Now I'm doing this from the Windows fonts directory, but this could be done from anywhere. I'm going to use the NS lookup tool, and we're going to look up Tor to web.org, right? So now I'm within a Cisco lab here, so you can see I got a response from my DNS server, and it has been sinkholed here. But the fact that we did the lookup itself is more than enough to trigger that particular detection. So this would normally be handled kind of behind the scenes by either the Tor browser or somebody running a Tor proxy, for example. But in this case, just to show you how this might actually work just from a manual trigger would be a good way to kind of do this. So let's go back over to our manager, and let's go to monitor here on the left, and let's go to alerts. Now this one I've got it having fired from another system down here earlier. We see this DNS traffic to Tor proxy. I'm going to click on that alert and open it up. And we've got kind of that same look and feel that we were covering here earlier with our description, our remediation next steps, our MITRE attack framework mappings down here, the specific details of timestamps for this particular alert when it's fired. We've got kind of our outline of that particular device. And then again, the meat and potatoes is going to be down here under the supporting observations, right? So we can see we have this observation DNS traffic to Tor proxy. And here's all the instances where we've seen this particular host making a request, a DNS request to this DNS server. And if you click on the plus sign, that's where you're going to get to see all the details down here, right? So here we see our timestamps, source ports, desk ports, IPs, things like that. And then when we get down here, look at the query, tor2web.org. That's one of those well-known Tor proxies. Q-type name, that's a Zeek field. We can see A, which is a host record that we're looking for, and we can even see the answer that came back down here. So we're bringing in those Zeek logs into these particular detections, giving you all those fields from Zeek. You've got all the details right at your fingertips here once that particular alert has fired. And I also want to show you there is a Zeek report similar to the NVM one we looked at earlier. I'm going to come over here to the left menu, hover over report, and go up here to report builder. And we're going to look at this Zeek log collection trend right here. So this is going to look similar to what we saw with the NVM collection trend earlier. And again, we can kind of, you can zoom in on this here if you want to. And it's just going to show you as kind of a check in making sure that we are in fact seeing Zeek logs coming into the system here. So you can make sure that everything is actually working. So that is what we've got for our new Zeek detections here. And let's go and talk about some additional resources here where you're able to learn more about what we're doing with Network Visibility Module and Zeek here. I've got a few references here for you. The first one is for a blog that I wrote a few months ago. Covers a lot of the same content here we're doing in today's webinar, showing you, talking about Network Visibility Module and Zeek, showing you some screenshots from Central Analytics, being able to see all of the alerts that are in there. We've also got a network visibility module configuration guide. This is for version 7.5.2, our latest release here. And we also have a Zeek configuration guide to assist you with getting those Zeek logs into Secure Network Analytics. And again, this is the latest version here in 7.5.2. For some more resources here, we've got a webinar recording that we did previously for the Secure Network Analytics 7.5.2 release. We do a what's new for all new releases, where we talk about the new features. So there's some discussion about the network visibility module and Zeek detections in that webinar. And we also have a self-guided demo that you can walk through. So it's a click-through demo that you can go through step by step, and you can see those NVM and Zeek detections in there. I always like to recommend for folks when they're trying to learn more about Secure Network Analytics or Cisco XDR to use the Training Center. We've got a wealth of information in there. We save our webinars to there after the fact. There's e-learning, use case scenarios in there. We've got a virtual instructor-led training that you can get in there, where you're actually walking through with someone in a real live instance. And with all of that said, I would like to move on to wrapping it up with question and answer time. So Carlo, do we have any questions I can help with here today?
Thank you very much, Robert. And I didn't see any questions come in at the moment, but if you do have a question, please go ahead and type it in either into the chat and or the Q&A panel, and hopefully we can get those answered live. Okay, so while we wait for questions to come in, I do want to post the links that you referenced in your previous slide. So I think we'll have the rest as well included in the post-event discussion thread. So let me get that post-event discussion thread added. So give me one sec. Okay. So that's been added. Okay, looks like one question did come in. How much throughput does Zeek support? And can we ingest 50 gigabits per second of data, let's say?
I have never tried to put that much through Zeek. I unfortunately do not know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I know I've seen it on like 1 gig and 10 gig networks before. A lot of it's going to be dependent on the resources of the machine that you're running it through, right? It's doing, you got to figure it's doing actual protocol inspection on all the traffic that it sees. That's a pretty resource intensive kind of activity there, but I do not know if it would be able to support 50 gigs per second or not off the top of my head. But I have seen it running at multi-gig speed before, just never that high.
Thank you very much. Is there any requirement on the Zeek deployment platform?
Well, yes, there's one specific thing is that you want to send the logs over in a JSON format. And typically there is a config that you can do. We include that in that configuration guide that I supplied. It's slightly different than the default out of the box configuration for Zeek. And then you would configure that with typically our syslog to send the Zeek logs in JSON format via syslog messages over to the flow collector. So all of that is kind of stepped through in the Zeek config guide there. And Zeek in and of itself has a lot of configurations that you can do in there as well. You can add additional modules into it. Um, it has its own config file that you can go in there and kind of tweak as well. But just in terms of getting it over to Secure Network Analytics, you want to do that JSON configuration, and then there's multiple ways to do it, but like when we're doing it in the lab, and we recommend using our syslog to do that.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sure.
Additional question is there a possibility to sample?
To sample the data, well, we've got like right now we do an ingest of it, like the flow collector will receive that. We run the rules of the detection rules against it. It's not currently stored in version 7.5.2. Version 7.5.3 that's coming out in about a month's time does have, we've made some changes to the database schema so that it is able to store those Zeek logs. So you would be able to go through and search through those Zeek logs and take a look at the logs, and not necessarily just the ones that were attached to detections. I hope that answers the sample question.
Awesome. Thank you. I think it did. Um, Next question is enabling NVM required for Zeek integration with Cisco Secure Network Analytics to work.
No, they're independent of each other. So you can use either one or you can use both of them together. So in our lab, we're using both of them together. They're going to be sent to the flow collector over different ports. Yeah, no, they'll work either together or independently of each other. But when you're looking in the central analytics and you're looking at the actual alert names, we do tag those by the telemetry type, so you'll be able to tell the difference between which one is going to be a network visibility module detection or a Zeek detection, or if it's based off of NetFlow, for example. They're all tagged in central analytics, so it's pretty clear once you're looking in there as to what the telemetry source is.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next question. Does Zeek support OT protocols or just the well-known protocols like DNS, DHCP, etc.?
Yeah, see, that I'm not sure of. There are modules I know you can add into it. I have a suspicion someone has probably created an OT protocol for it. So if you're going to be, parsing, SCADA ICS types of protocols there, someone has probably built one. I don't know of one off the top of my head. Right out of the box, typically what you're going to be looking at for Zeek is kind of the more well-known types of things, more the IT side of the house. But if there is one that's built into it, I'm just not aware of it. But I would bet that someone has probably created one. There are there's like Bazaar and things like that where other organizations and people have created their own modules for Zeek. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was one. I'm just not familiar with one off the top of my head.
Thank you. Okay, and this one is similar to this question that's coming up is similar to what you answered about the throughput. It's a bit different. It's pretty much asking what is Zeek's processing capacity and how could it scale towards 50 gigabits per second over the next 3 years?
Uh, I have no idea. The the we are just on the receiving side of Zeek with Secure Network Analytics. Um, you can run multiple Zeek instances. I know that. If you've got a 50 gig pipe, again, usually the constraints on Zeek are going to be based on the system resources for the system, typically a Linux box that is going to be running Zeek and doing the monitoring and generating the logs and things like that. I don't know what would be on Zeek's roadmap. Zeek is not a Cisco product. So I don't have any really insight into that in terms of what that would look like from the Zeek side of the house. So um,
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. I probably would recommend reaching out to Zeek. Maybe they have a support forum. Great question to ask.
Yeah.
And it looks like that covers all the questions we have.
All right.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, Robert?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for their time today. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I hope it gave you some additional information about what we're doing in secure network analytics, and hopefully maybe gave you some information that you can take back and do your job even better. And again, thank you so much, and hope you all learned something today, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you to our panelists and the whole team for bringing your knowledge to the Cisco community. Again, if you have a question, I do encourage you to jump over onto the Cisco Learning Network post-event discussion thread where you can download a copy of today's presentation as a PDF file, along with view the actual, I believe it's a live stream recording, which will be available if you want to immediately, actually. Other than that, let me get that pasted. Let's see here. Let me get that there. Awesome. Your feedback is important, and at this time, you'll be directed to a survey. So we do encourage you to please take the time to participate. Let us know how we did and future topics you'd like discussed on future sessions. Once again, we thank everyone for joining in, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.